Hey guys, if you're just joining now, please say hello and let me know where you're from. Or let me know where you're joining from, rather. Balls online. Balls online. Balls online. Ooh, bad feedback. Merhaba Hazal. Nice to see you again. I think we chatted last time about your injury, if I'm not mistaken. How's that feeling now? Guys, you have to give me 1 second to add something really quickly. Say hi, let me know where you guys are from. It's interesting to see how many people around the world are logged in, and also your time zone sometimes. All right. Jason is my neighbor. Gamze is like my soul sister in a lot of That's great to hear, Hazal. I'm very happy to hear that you are feeling better. So let me just get on one thing. 1 second, guys. Okay. All right, so I love you too. I love all of you guys. And Hazal, I guess I will be seeing you very soon in Turkey for the festival. Hey, Melody. Arizona. I'm actually thinking of going to Arizona this summer for a vacation. To actually, I want to see the Grand Canyon. Obviously, I think that's something everyone wants to see. It'd be great to get some recommendations on what else I could do over there. Awesome. So, to not take up too much time with, but then I cannot help but say hi. Hi, Sandra from Amsterdam. Thank you for joining. Especially appreciate you guys joining if it's like really early for you or really late for you, because it is a Saturday afternoon. You could be doing a million other things. But I appreciate that you guys are here with me for at least 30 minutes. All right, so before I start and delve into the topic of rejection, does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask, or any comments that they have when it comes to dealing with rejection? And yes, I know, I've heard of the breathtaking views. Yes, I will have an online course. Thank you for asking. I am going to actually start off with some online courses on dance technique stuff. So if you guys are interested in improving your spins and technique, I will have some online courses with that, which will also be accompanied with live coaching if you wanted. You could, of course, just sign up for the course and get the instructional material over the 4 weeks. Or you could actually sign up for live coaching, which I will provide every week with the instruction material so that you can ask your questions and make sure that you're practicing correctly and all of that stuff. So yes, I will have online courses, Gamze. The topics and everything will range, but initially I'll probably be starting off with some dance stuff. Okay, so I got a bunch of I got a bunch of questions submitted before when I was promoting this live, and there are a lot of like very interesting concerns that we have when it comes to rejection. So one of the people on Instagram, Samuel, asked me how to address not being afraid to ask when you're insecure of your own dance skills. I think that's probably the hardest thing, because usually when we get into a dance with somebody, we are hoping that they enjoy it. And if we see someone who's dancing with a lot of pro dancers, excuse me, a lot of professional dancers or advanced dancers, we start to doubt ourselves. We start to question our ability to provide them with a good. And when I first started dancing, and I say this to everybody, I don't know why you guys seem so shocked that that I sucked at some point. Like I really, I really did suck. But when I first started dancing, and I knew I wasn't that good. I knew that the advanced dancer that I had asked to dance, he just finished the dance with some girl who was doing all these tricks and spins, and like everything he was trying to lead on her, she was able to do effortlessly, flawlessly, and gracefully. And then here comes Magna with her, you know, little kicky step. And yeah, if I thought about the other person judging my ability in that particular moment, of course, it would make me hesitant to ask anybody. But what I tried to focus on instead was that getting that dance and dancing with that dancer who has better technique, better timing, better skills, and will probably keep me on time because I used to go off time all the time, lots of times in there. It helped me to ask, because it wasn't about where I was in that particular moment. It was about like getting myself to another place where I knew I would be better, but I knew that I needed to dance even in my sucky state to get to that better place. So for Samuel, it's not easy to overcome that feeling, that self-judgment where you're concerned that the other person is like, oh, I'm so bored dancing with this person. You know, why did I even say yes? And then you're sitting there wondering, why did I even ask? I know I can't provide this person with a great dance. The other thing I'd like to say about that is that even if your dance is not that skilled, even if your level is not that high, there is a lot more to a dance that you can provide. A smile. I mean, we take it for granted how much a genuine smile, laughter, and playfulness the impact it can have on somebody else. And so even if your skill is not there, if you at least transmit a positive vibe and a positive energy to your partner, I'm pretty certain that they are going to enjoy themselves. And I've actually even seen it. Like I have a friend of mine, this guy Dai, who used to be in New York, and he is a really funky dancer. He does all sorts of crazy stuff. He doesn't do complicated movements. He's not going through turn pattern after turn pattern after turn pattern for, you know, multiple songs through a night. But he's fun, and he's always smiling, and he's always laughing, and it doesn't matter who's dancing with him, whether they're advanced or beginners, they're always smiling in return. So if you are a beginner, and if you are feeling some sort of insecurity about your own level of dance, don't think that that's all that you have to offer. In any relationship, in any conversation, in any dialogue, yes, there's a topic, which of course, if you have more information on that topic, it's going to put you in a better position to have that conversation. But even in being inquisitive, smiling and being supportive, all of those things are also things that you can offer. So when you're dancing, especially if you're a beginner, because that's probably our biggest challenge when it comes to dancing as a beginner, because we're trying to get better, is to think about what else you have to offer, how else you can make somebody's 5 minutes enjoyable, because it's not just about dance. And I'll tell you that there are people that I've danced with who are not that great in terms of like how many patterns and stuff that they know, but they're always smiling, and it just gives me this joy inside. So remember that there's more that you have to offer than just your patterns and your shines and your moves. Okay. I hope that helps for Samuel. Let's see. I also got another friend of mine who I call everybody a friend because that's what I feel like this world is friend. A friend of mine from Chicago, he wrote a comment on another video, which if you guys haven't seen the other two videos that I've done on rejection, one is the importance of learning when and how to say no, and dealing with rejection itself. They are in the links below, so if you guys go into the description, you'll be able to see the links to those. I highly recommend you watch them just to kind of get some perspective on rejection and the word no just being a word. It's not, doesn't have to be judgment. But Alvin talked about how he got rejected by some lady that he asked, and on top of that, she laughed and ridiculed him. And that takes me to two things. And apparently, sorry, let me add one more part of the story. And they didn't dance, obviously, in that moment. But a few years later, she actually ends up asking him to dance. So there are three things that I'd like to talk about with that particular situation. Is one, delivery. You know, you can get away with saying almost anything if you say it the right way. You can even curse at somebody, but with a smile, and sometimes they're not even sure if they should be offended, you know, just because the energy that you're giving is so good, but you're like, you know. So delivery is really important. If you have to say no to somebody for whatever your reason, and any reason you have is, in my opinion, is justified, whether you don't want to dance, whether you don't want to do something, whether you don't like the person, whether you feel like you're too good, whatever your reason, it's your reason. You're entitled to your reason. And the whole premise of asking a question is that whatever answer you get, you've got to kind of accept that answer, right? So if you're delivering a rejection to somebody else, if you are saying no to whatever someone is asking you, how you say it is really, really important. You could have really crappy reasons for saying it, reasons that other people don't feel are justified, but your delivery is really what's going to make it acceptable or unacceptable. And in terms of being acceptable, I think that we always have to remember we're dealing with human beings and that they have emotions and feelings and will react to whatever we put out into the world, whatever we give to them. So whenever you have to say no, whatever you have to say, including a yes, right? Whenever you have to deliver a rejection, I would like you guys to just think about how you're saying it. If somebody asks you and you think or you know that they're not a good dancer, to look at them and be like, no, that's not a good delivery. There's no reason actually for having that kind of delivery, right? That condescension is unwarranted and uncalled for. But even if you feel like they're not a good dancer and you don't want to dance with them because of that reason, you can still say, no, thank you. And that's it. So delivery is very important. The second part is to the person receiving that rejection, especially if someone is rude, if they are giving you this eyeballing up and down and laughing or ridiculing you. I know that's not easy to deal with, but if you can, in that moment, instead of making it personal, kind of look at that person and just maybe empathize with whatever insecurities they have that they can't actually communicate properly, that they are having difficulty in saying no in a polite way. And that is more a reflection on them and their lack of etiquette and their lack of manners than it is on your ability to dance or your level of skill. So it's not easy to take yourself out of your own emotions and your own thoughts when something like that happens. But if you can, focus on the other person and kind of have a little bit of compassion towards them, that their negativity is probably not coming from a good place. Like, my honest opinion is that most of us are, I think we're good at heart. I think we want to be good to other people. I don't think most of us have the intention inside to hurt somebody else. So if we do something that is hurtful to someone else, I feel like we're struggling with something much deeper inside. And for whatever we're struggling with inside, I think that deserves a little bit of compassion. So instead of looking at that person and saying, "Oh, what a horrible person." Well, who knows what they're going through, that they're negative that day. Who knows what they're fighting against, that they feel the need to fight against your request, right? It's not easy to do it, but it definitely makes a difference. And it'll also possibly lead to a future dance. So this person, going back to that story of this guy asking a girl to dance, she was laughing at him, saying no, ridiculing him. And then a few years later, she ended up asking him to dance. I don't know the ending of that story. I'm not sure if he said yes. I didn't actually follow up to find that out. However, if that was me and somebody laughed at me, I might actually bring it up, but in a joking manner. Like that's happened to me before. I'm like, the last time I asked you to dance, you kind of laughed at me and you did this. And sometimes they don't even realize. And again, like I said, you have to understand that people are going through their own shit. And maybe they'll get out of it, maybe they won't, but you've got to be open to the fact that people change. And so for me, when I've been asked by somebody, especially when I was a beginner, who would kind of like, she really sucks, and kind of give me that look of, are you crazy? You suck. Why are you asking me? And then a few years later, they feel better. Maybe they've got better things happening in their life, that they're not so negative, that they're not so condescending. Maybe they got a reality check somehow that humbled them. Whatever the case is, the person that asked me to dance later was a better person. And the only way for us to grow as a community and to grow as individuals and in life is to accept that people can change. Not that they always will, but that they can. And if they do, especially when it's in a positive direction, that we should be able to embrace that positive change and nurture it by accepting that change. And if it's in the negative direction, to not necessarily shun it, but to, again, like I said, provide a little bit of compassion. Ooh, blah, 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 blah. So, J.R. Cruz, what advice would you give a man on how to say no to a courageous woman who asks you to dance? Ooh, I like how you say courageous woman. So to answer that question, I also feel like there's a difference between how men are allowed to say no and how women are allowed to say no, which I don't particularly agree with. I think that both parties, leads and follows, men and women, have the same right to say no when they don't feel like doing something. I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm pretty certain society has built that into us, ingrained that into us, that, if a woman approaches a man, that a man should 100% agree to whatever she was asking for, especially if it comes to a dance. Whereas women are allowed to say, no, I don't feel like it. So the best way, again, JR, I would say, is to be polite. If there's something that you don't want to do, it is much better, as I always say, to give a 2-second no that is delivered politely than to spend 5 minutes or more with an insincere yes. I have said yes. I have been the person who's been asked who didn't want to dance and said yes because of some feeling of obligation I had inside of me. And I know that those dances were probably even harder for that person to deal with, because it's not that I couldn't follow them. I was probably doing all the moves that they were asking of me, except that my energy wasn't there. That maybe I wasn't smiling, or maybe I was kind of frustrated that I was there dancing with them and I really didn't want to be. And the unfortunate but beautiful nature of our bodies is that, what you feel is going to come out. And so if you are sincerely not feeling like doing something, it is much better to just take a step back, wait out that 5 songs, and then maybe later, if you want to, you can. If the person that asks you to dance is someone you do want to dance with, by all means, say later or say next time or something like that. If you don't want to dance with them and you don't want to oblige yourself to committing to following up on a dance in a future point, then just say no, thank you. Which I would actually like to bring up one other point. So I had, in one of my workshops, I was talking about this as well. And same thing, one of the guys in the workshop stood up and said, like, a guy should never say no, to which obviously I gave him the same answer I just gave you guys here. And then a follower, one of the girls in the workshop said, well, if he says no, he should say why. Okay. And I want you guys to think about this for a second. Do you really want to know why? I mean, the reason we ask why is often just to hear that it's not about us, right? Like, if I ask you to dance and you say no, and I'm like waiting for more, I just want you to say, no, Magna, I'm tired. No, Magna, I'm thirsty. So it's not, no, Magna, I don't want to dance with you because of you. I just want to hear you make it about yourself. But if it is about you, do you still want to hear the answer? And that's a question I always ask. Nobody owes you more than just the answer to your question. If you ask them, for example, would you like to dance? And whatever your answer is, you also, should tell me why. Very different, because you're already prefacing your question with, give me a reason. However, when you ask somebody to dance or ask them to do anything, basically you're giving them the option of yes, no, maybe later. And I wouldn't delve in for a reason, because maybe that reason is you, and maybe the person that you asked is brutally honest and actually doesn't care. And so they're like, you know what? I don't want to dance with you because you suck. So you might not want to hear that answer. So just be mindful of someone saying no to you and not giving you any further explanation, and don't fault them for that. It doesn't mean that it's about you, but it's not an answer that you really need, because if you were trying to do something with somebody and they said no, then why are you still there, right? Why not go and find somebody else to do that with? I think it was Chris on Instagram who said, no means next. Okay, so if you get a no, don't waste your time and waste your effort and your energy there. Just move on to whoever else can provide you with that yes. So I'm getting a question about, excuse me, how long would you say yes to real beginners one after another? It's really hard to say no, and then at some point you get overwhelmed. So for me, in any given dance night, especially when it comes to social dancing, I am there to have fun as well. Yes, when I go to an event, I'm there for work, but for me, the work is the teaching, the work is the performing, but the social dancing is the fun part for me. And I feel that I have a right, just like everybody else on that dance floor, whether they are professionals or beginners or just people who came to watch, I have a right to enjoy my night as well. Now, my night, the enjoyment in my night depends kind of on the environment and what's around. So if I was at a party and it was just full of beginners, then I've already mentally set myself up that, okay, well, this evening is going to be just dancing with beginners, and I'm going to find a way to make that as enjoyable as possible for myself and for my partner. If it's a congress, if it's a big event where there are advanced dancers, they are artist friends of mine who I haven't seen that often, and there's of course a wide array of different levels of dancers, well then in that case, I need a balance in my night. So yes, I don't mind dancing with beginner after beginner, but then at some point, I also want to have like that dance that I really, really feel. And even something like that is not to say that is just a professional that can like any pro could deliver that, or any advanced dancer could deliver that. Different dancers and I have different connections. So you could have someone like, for example, Super Mario. who is a phenomenal dancer who I've known since my sucky days, and he knows that. You guys can, if you know him, you can ask him. Or someone like Terry. Um, Terry and I have a different connection than I do with Super Mario. There are certain songs that I would rather dance with one than the other. So, some people who are like, oh, but, you say no to beginners, but you would say yes to every pro. No, I wouldn't actually. Because if there was a song that I was feeling and I wanted to hit breaks and do all sorts of shines and all kind of stuff like that, then I would probably not pick the pro who's got a lot of turn patterns. But if I really want like a flowy dance and there's a song that I feel and I want like a different connection, then I would. So everyone provides a different connection to you. And I think if we can start to remember that our relationships on the dance floor are no different than our relationships off the dance floor, meaning that just like in our lives, we have our best friends, then we have a bunch of friends, then we have our acquaintances, then we have just colleagues and, random people that we run into and strangers. So we have that in our dance life as well. Just because we all share this passion doesn't mean that we all have that perfect connection with each other. Yes, we can create a good connection, but we all have different connections, and respecting the fact that we are going to have different relationships on the dance floor should make it easier for us to say, okay, well, you know what? I really connect with this person for this type of music or for this vibe. And that's it. It doesn't mean that this other person is a lesser dancer. It's just we have a different connection. So yeah, if it comes to dancing with a lot of beginners, for me, it goes into the balance in my night. So I don't mind dancing with a lot of beginners. I can have a lot of fun, but sometimes I also want something out of that night and out of that dance, and I might go and look for that person who who I know can provide that to me. I hope that helps, Asi and Squeezy. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Speaking of which, so there was somebody else who asked, Cynthia, who asked, one of her difficulties was saying no to someone that you don't want to dance with, but then saying no to someone you don't want to dance with, but there's someone you do want to dance with. And you feel like you can't dance with that person that you do want to dance with because you just said no. In those situations, I have learned to be very honest with what I'm feeling and what I want. And I think it's important for all of us to do that, because not in a rude way, and not obviously to just go rejecting everyone and everything, but to be honest with what you can give. And a lot of what you can give often depends on how fulfilled you feel as well. So in a situation, if someone asked me to dance and I said no, and I hear the next or the song, I really like it, and I see someone I really wished I could dance with, I would probably just take that break. I would not necessarily run to go and dance with another person. However, if somebody asks me and I know there's someone I want to dance with, I'm usually pretty honest about that too. So if you ask me and let's say your name is Joe and I have another friend named Bob and I really want to dance with Bob, I'm sorry, Joe, I'm looking for Bob for this song. So I am saying no to you. I'm also telling you that I am going to be dancing this song, and I'm telling you that I'm looking for a certain person to dance that song with. Again, whenever we hear something like this, just try not to take it personal. It's not about our lack of connection as much as it is about a special connection that I have with somebody else. And just as I wouldn't judge anybody else for wanting to dance with someone else. Like, let's say, for example, I'm a pretty playful dancer and I can get goofy and all that stuff. And if there was a leader who just wanted to kind of go through pattern after pattern and doesn't really want the follow to insert any additional creativity or anything like that, then they might not want to dance with me. It's not to say that they don't want to dance with me ever. It's not to say that there's not another song that we could connect to. It's not even to say that they don't like my style of dancing. It's just that they're saying for that moment, for that song, what they're feeling is probably not going to gel with what I'm feeling. and that is okay. So it's not necessarily easy, but I would say what it all comes down to is your delivery, how you approach saying no to somebody, how much compassion you have when you say no to someone, accepting and understanding that there's another person listening to you, and trying to be as polite and as respectful as possible. And if you are on the receiving end of the rejection, to do your best to not make it personal, because even if it is personal, I mean, what is it going to benefit you to sit there and mull over, how bad you must suck because that's why somebody said no? That doesn't help you. So the best thing is to, as quickly as you can, as comfortably as you can, to take that rejection and say, okay, and move on to someone who can provide you with what you need. And we all grow, like I said, we all grow, we all change. And as we change as human beings, as individuals, as dancers, I think the best thing that we can provide as well is an acceptance to people changing. So sure, maybe you didn't want to dance with someone because of whatever reason. Maybe you thought you were too good, and now all of a sudden you realize actually there's so much more to learn, and so you've kind of humbled yourself. If you ask that person to dance again, it would be shitty if that person's like, oh no, you said no to me one time, I'm never dancing with you again. Who knows, what you were feeling. And yeah, maybe your condescension and attitude and arrogance is not a good quality, but you learned from that. Time has taught you that those are not ways to approach relationships, and that's not a good way to approach life. And so you've learned and you become a better person. And on the receiving or the other person, what the best we can do is provide some sort of acceptance to that. We're kind of almost over our time. Actually, we are over time. So are there any other questions, last minute questions? I've got like 5 more minutes for you guys. And also, if you do have more questions, and if you feel that this topic is important enough to discuss, we can definitely do another live session on this topic. I know 30 minutes is not enough to cover all the range of emotions and circumstances that we encounter. So I'm more than happy to talk about this a little bit more in the future, because I think the more honest we can be, the more comfortable we can get with rejection, the more compassionate we are when we deliver rejection, the better the community is, and we all end up benefiting from that ultimately. And I would like to go out into a dance community and feel like I can be myself and be honest, and that anyone that I'm interacting with is going to be the same with me. That makes for a great community for me. So I would like to contribute the best that I can to helping develop that community. So if you guys do want, more stuff like this, I'd be glad to do that. Speaking of which, if you are watching this right now live, or if you're watching the replay, at the very bottom, there's also a feedback form, which I would very much appreciate if you guys could take the time to fill that form out and let me know what you guys thought about this particular live, as well as future topics that you might like me to discuss. And please include what times work for you, because people are logged in here from all around the world, and I would like to accommodate you guys as much as possible, because again, the idea is building the conversation, having an honest discussion, and improving our community so that we can all benefit, so that we can all grow as dancers and as people. And thank you, JR, and thank you, Essie, for your excellent questions. I'm sure there are other people who would appreciate the answers to those questions and probably have the same questions. Awesome. So, thank you again, guys. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you guys soon. Once this session ends, by the way, it'll be live on YouTube. So if you did find some of these answers useful, by all means, once it's posted and published onto YouTube, you guys can share the link to your friends as well. Okay? Thank you, guys. Look forward to seeing you all somewhere around the world.